not super happy at all. And I'm going to tell you why we're not super happy. But let's do more chance. So, the people happening here.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have the idea of the chance now, and there's another that is, and you guys have power. We have power together. So we not only a bunch of chanters people, you know, we not only a people that come in and make noise. We really are smart and intelligent. You know that? Are you smart?
Yes,
Of
we
course.
are.
Are you intelligent?
Yes,
Of
we
course.
are.
Because who created all these demands? We
did.
And say,
ACORN.
what? Yes, we
ACORN.
did. ACORN did it. People like you and me. People that is low income and moderate income. Do you know that we are 185,000 accordions?
Yes.
Yes. And these people that unfortunately have the same issues.
Yes.
No repairs, no housing, no respect, you know, no hope. So this is why today's announcement is like when you are dogs that are hungry and you draw home. That announcement today is only a little bone. That is the game crumbles.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yes.
But we also know that they are working. There's other pieces to it, right? We have to network and use all the tools available to us to get them to do their
Okay.
job.
Wait, Marcia. One moment, can we cannot speak at the same time. You will have your phone. And you will have your phone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because if not, okay. So now, this is our demand. Our demands is that we want and we need. It's not that we want. It's not that we say, oh, we want this because we are so beautiful. No. We want this because we need it. 50,000 rent year to income. You know what is a rent year to income? Meaning 30% of your budget only should be for rent.
Yes.
Only 30%.
Yes.
This is what it means, rent year to income. Then we need invest in the acquisition, the construction, the operation, and the maintenance. Because you can do these beautiful buildings, but if you leave it abandoned, it doesn't work. And this is what these landlords are doing, you know? And then we need a new and existing public, non-profit, and cooperative housing.
Yes.
You know, this gentleman now, what is his name? Johnny mentioned something that before that we already had problems. Because before we used to do co-op.
Yes.
Before we used to do more social housing. But they stopped it because someone, of course, a politician said no, it's enough. Okay, but this is what we need to come back. The other thing is we really need to find people that is in core need of housing.
Yes.
As well, we need that, for example, let's put an example. It's not the case, but let's put an example. Imagine a picture that this square is the city. It's not, but it's an example. And the city says, okay, Mr. Johnny, you're a developer. Okay, so let's do a development here, okay? And these units only should be for 21 years affordable. Do you think it's a good plan?
No.
This should be forever and ever.
That's right.
Forever and ever.
Yes.
But they have been doing this? No. Right now, the federal agreement is only for 21 years. And now we say, boo! Okay, now we need as well, you know what is a commodity? Maybe you don't know. Well, okay, Johnny, now explain that. What is a commodity?
A commodity is a unit that is publicly traded.
Okay, perfect. That means,
It's a resource unit that is publicly traded. An example would be like canola or gold.
Thank you so much. So, is housing should be a commodity?
No.
Cannot be a commodity. But the government because their lack or involvement, because they really don't want it. Really, this is the worst. Because when they want something, they do it, isn't it?
Exactly.
But because they don't want it or they don't care, or I don't know what is really their reason, they have not put this in place. They should be right now stopping these people that eat like you remember that game Pac-Man? Well, I ended all this, you know? They eat like this, eating. Okay, so Sweden and UK, they stop that. How? With legislation. How? They put a registry, they create a registry, and they know how many units are buy for Mr. Johnny here, and if Mr. Johnny buy too many units, they say, no, Mr. Johnny, you cannot do it.
Sure.
But in Canada, it's not that yet.
Yes.
And we need it.
Yes.
We need that.
There are 84,000 empty condo units in Toronto
Oh,
by
okay.
foreign investors, and this was actually shown by Amos and
So Johnny is going to speak to us about it later because I know he wants to speak and I love that, Johnny.
That's good.
So then, the other thing that we need to do is these investors, they are very shady. You know why? They come in a gray, a number. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ink. How are you going to complain to that?
Yes.
How are you going to follow up with that? How are you going to be accountable with a number that nobody can trace?
That's
So
right.
stop this nonsense to put a name, a number to an organization.
Right.
They have to have an address, they have to have an email, they have to have a phone.
Yes.
And then we can really follow up and stop these people for treating housing as a commodity.
Yes. Yes.
And
That's
then
right.
the last piece, but not the least, is that, probably I said that already. No, I say everything. Okay, so now we're going to pass to Stacy. But before Stacy is going to be tell us something very important, but let's do some chants again.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? Mother Nature is smiling on us. Okay, so the Prime Minister Carney, we are here today to unite and address our concerns over the lack of affordable housing. Your previous experience as the Minister for the Department of Finance and as Governor to not only the Bank of Canada, but also the Bank of England shows you should have the experience and knowledge to address affordability as you stepped in numerous times to assist Canada during financial crises. Too many are living paycheck to paycheck to scrape by, while others I've recognized, especially since joining ACORN, like seniors and people with disabilities, aren't able to keep up with the demands of the cost of living and live in substandard conditions because they have nowhere else to go and are facing homelessness. For far too long, the government has been promising action, but for 5 decades, 50 years, the housing crisis has only been worsening. In a time when so many are concerned about tariffs, we need the Team Canada approach more than ever, as released by the federal government in December of last year. This was from the federal investments launched in 2017. Why is the government taking so long to ensure decent housing is provided as a human right?
Shameful.
You have $14 billion to invest, but the government continues to say to the public, you should only be spending 30% of your income on housing. How do you do that?
Yeah. Shameful. Shameful.
We're tired of seeing our tax dollars go to 6-figure salaries of politicians who tell us how to live.
Shameful. Disgrace.
We're here to provide action on demands we want to see come to fruition that the government has been promising for far too long.
That's right. Time to do your job.
Sure enough, on the news today, federal government income goes to fund that governmental agency.
Yeah.
It would open the door to affordable housing units made available without finding solutions to restrictive land use or the corporate underinvestment this government has been claiming why affordable housing is so slow to resolve. This not only would alleviate so many stresses on the housing market for both tenants and even landlords, but create more transparency to the government on landlords' bad faith practices on AGIs and lack of maintenance, among other living conditions the people of Canada are enduring.
Shameful.
Let's rebuild existing neighborhoods so people can breathe again and coexist in an affordable and supportive environment.
Very well said, Stacy. Amazing, very good job. So now, okay, so now we have his number. Oh, Philip, sorry. Philip with us. So he's going to speak. Please give it up to Philip.
The federal government's agreement with the City of Toronto has announced a historic $2.5 billion in low-cost loans through the Apartment Construction Loan Program in order to build 4,800 rental units in Toronto. And again, with the 10-year goal of building 41,000 affordable rental and 6,500 rented income units. Despite this, the current minimum of 1,000 affordable rental units is expected to come from this federal investment. It's just a drop in the water when compared to the problems overall. Without rent control measures and regulations on large financial landlords, there is no guarantee that these units will remain affordable. Federal funding to social and non-market housing must build a minimum of 50,000 net new rent-to-earn income social housing units. Today, the building and maintenance of non-market housing in Canada is generally seen as and legislated as the responsibility of provincial and city governments. The limited revenue tools of municipalities, in particular, often push them to turn to the private sector to address housing needs. And as we all know, their developers and REITs have zero regards to the low-income people that they displace with their developments. Historically, the federal government has had a very big role in building Canada's social housing. From the 60s until the 90s, Canada was globally acknowledged for its high investments in social housing. An average of 10% of newly built rental housing in the 60s to 70s was non-market. In 1993, the federal government redefined social housing investment as a provincial responsibility. And as of 2025, non-market housing is only about 3.5 of total housing stock in Canada. Shameful, shame! We have also been seeing attempts by pundits and policymakers to divert Canada's attention from the root causes of this crisis, instead of pinning the blame on American finance alone or migrant workers and refugees. Premier Ford makes a big show of standing up to the American president and American tariff threats to affordability in Canada, despite having spent all of his tenure as Premier of Ontario actively attacking the rights of over 30% of people who rent in Ontario. Shameful! Just a couple of these policies include things like the end of rent control in 2018 on all buildings built after 2018, the 2024 Cutting Red Tape Act, which just tilts the scales further in favor of landlords of the Landlord-Tenant Board, for the blatant favoritism towards developers building on greenbelt land near the proposed Highway 413. Additionally, the political discourse we've been seeing from both the Liberal and Conservative parties have increasingly blamed immigrants, migrants, newcomers for this country's housing problems. The Liberal government's summer 2024 limits to the temporary foreign worker program has abruptly shortened the permits of thousands of workers and students in 2024 and 5, lending credibility to the rhetoric that migrants and newcomers are the predominant cause of the current housing crisis. Most migrants are tenants, and many living in miserable housing conditions because of their migrant and low-income status, as with any other tenant in Canada. In reality, it is the financial landlords and private investors who guarantee insanely priced rents and lack of affordable housing stock, as well as decades of no new investment in public housing. Continuing to promote these untrue explanations for the housing crisis, while also doing nothing to address it, will only lead to the opportunistic rise of far-right movements and violence, as we saw the horrific emergence of the outright race riots instigated by far-right extremists in the UK last November. Shameful! Shameful! The solution to the housing crisis will not be found in the understand the urgent need to step up for affordability in this moment, just like you did when you chose to rein in guaranteed low interest rates, 15 months from 2009 to 2010. The apartment construction loan program deal with Toronto is a step in the right direction for a single Canadian city, but ACORN Canada will continue to fight for a national rent freeze, stronger rent control, vacancy control, and investment in non-market housing to ensure safe, affordable housing for all. What do we want?
Thank you so much for Philip. This was a very well said. Can you give it up for him again? So I forgot to tell you that Stacy is from downtown. Stacy from downtown. What is the people of downtown? Where? Very good. What is the people from Scarborough? Oh, Philip is from Scarborough. Very nice. What is the people from Weston?
Right here!
What are the people from East York? East York.
East York, yes? Yes!
We represent. Okay, so now we're going to receive Marcia. Please give it up for Marcia.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Marcia.
People have been patiently waiting for these changes to be heard and made. We're tired of waiting. There's no more time for empty promises and inaction on the part of the government. Real people are on the street, are in homes they can't afford. They need access to non-market housing. That means stopping the financialization of landlords and real estate investment trusts, which huge corporations that work alongside the landlord-tenant board, and we all know that. They are the ones who are rubber stamping the above guideline rent increases that many of us are struggling with today. Now's the time to take action because we do have options. And it's up to us to stand up and speak up and let them hear your voice. Remember, they do listen to us. Believe it or not, a lot of the things that have been passed over the last several years in a lot of the cities is because of ACORN. It's because of us. It's because of you standing up for your rights. And that's what we're here for, to help people know their rights and stand up for themselves as a collective. When we stand together, we win. When we fight together, we win. You are not in the situation on your own. There are millions of Ontarians across this province that are suffering just like you because of corporate landlords and because Doug Ford has given the landlords all the rights and taken away tenants' rights. So stand up and speak up.
I forgot to ask, is somebody here from Etobicoke? Yeah. And somebody from Jane and Finch? Okay, but anyway, these are the chapters that we had in the city of Toronto.
Right.
So this is why I was calling. So now, we're going to the most important part of this meeting is you, of course. But now we're going to the second most important part, that is the march. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think you're up.
Oh, yeah, you're Can we give it up for him, please?
Now, I'm going to take a slightly different angle from what's written in the sheet, but I promise you I have a point to make and I will bring it all together as I go along. I feel I would be remiss being given this platform today if I didn't bring up the atrocities happening all around the world. So, can I get from all of you, as all of our struggles are linked, all of the same forces that are causing us to be under pressure and stress in our city are the same forces that are causing turmoil around the world. Capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy. These forces are the reasons that we are dealing with so many of the problems that we have today, and they translate directly into the problems that we have with housing here. Private equity is responsible for the affordability crisis that we currently find ourselves in. The price of housing is going up uncontrolled. The price of essentials to live, like food, water, and medical care, everything we need, are quickly becoming unaffordable. And in order to address that, we need to think about the common causes that underlie all of these things. Now, I am from Church and Wellesley Village, and I'm at the epicenter of major gentrification that is happening all over the city. The culture of my neighborhood is being choked out. People are being priced out of their homes. Heritage buildings are being demolished, with their facades being used to tart up new condo towers that are not being built for anybody, any regular people. They are being built for the money investment class. Shame! Now, I took a walk down Church Street today, and there are signs all around that point to these problems. If you walk from Bloor Street down to Carlton on Church Street, there is one bench. One single bench, except for Barbara Hall Park, which is a concentrated spot. This one bench is also anti-homeless. And I have personal experience with a disabled friend who needed somewhere to sit down, just to rest. And it was the only thing we could find.
Shameful. Shameful. They're removing them all around the city. They're removing them all around the city.
We are losing our green spaces. We are losing areas where we can simply exist, where we can simply be, without the assumption that we are going to spend money on one thing or another. Shame.
Shameful. Yeah.
Not only that, but these spaces have historically been used by unhoused and disadvantaged people to camp and simply have a place to go. But if they do that for too long, or if somebody gets upset, the police come and clear them out. These are the same police that enforce evictions on tenants within the city. These are the same police that are working to criminalize protest in the city for causes that they do not like. And if they are going to do that for certain causes, how long before they come after ACORN when we become inconvenient for them? We need to put the new federal government on notice.
Yes. Yes.
Because historically, and especially over the past year and a half, they have shown what their true colors are and where their priorities are. I personally do not have any reason to think that Mark Carney and his new government, should they retain control, are going to be a reliable partner for us. And I say we need to give them one chance and one chance alone before we make it uncomfortable for them.
That's it. That's it. You get one shot.
Thank you.
It's on.
Perfect. Thank you, class. Can we give it up for Johnny?
Hi everyone, I'm Johnny, and this is the sad thing. It's we have enough housing as there is. There are more than 84,000 empty condo units in the Greater Toronto area. There are 23,000 empty houses in the Greater Toronto area owned by foreign investors. Okay, I've actually seen these numbers. These have been independently actually verified on Bay Street. 84,000 empty condo units. Some have multiple bedrooms. These houses, that 23,000 empty homes, 3, 4 bedrooms, sometimes plus. and why owned and bought by foreign investors to just hold until then. That building there is 60% empty. Just owned by foreign investors. Okay, we don't need to build more house. We have it. We have it.
You got it, Johnny.
Okay, and the sad thing is, housing cannot be a traded commodity. I'm sorry, it cannot be. We've reached a point. Since 2011 to now, my home has tripled in value. Repeat, tripled in value.
Shameful. It is shameful.
The dream of home ownership for regular people is dead. It is gone.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We need to step up. We've squeezed the bottom too far. We've crushed the bottom too much, and we cannot do it anymore.
Yes. Thank you so much. Can we give it up for Johnny, please? Okay. I'm really sorry with you guys, and I forgot at the beginning to tell you a little bit of house rules, because right now, when somebody's speaking, try please don't do side conversations because it's kind of disrespectful. First of all. Second, when somebody is speaking, try to pay attention. And the other thing that we're going to do is right now is we're going to march. And that march is very important. Guys, can you please, you have time to speak later. Let's do the march and then you can mingle. For sure they're going to have okay. So we're going to do the march, but for the march we have some house rules. For the march festival, sometimes people come in to entice people, So let's say we are marching and somebody tells you a bad word. Please don't answer. Because remember when we are here, we are representing ACORN. We're not representing Alejandra. By the way, my name is Alejandra. We're not representing Marcia. We're not representing Christopher or Johnny. We are representing ACORN.
Everybody.
So please, when we go in there, we're going to be a model citizens. No bad words.
Peaceful protest.
Yes, and please, if somebody tries to entice you, so move away. Because we have never had to receive it, like bring people to the jail, never. Okay? So please, be respectful. If people don't want to be respectful, this is their issue. We are respectful. We're going to walk. Where are we going to walk? Somebody knows?
1902 Danforth Avenue, just west of Woodbine Station.
I know, but where is that?
Sorry.
Oh, yes, you're right, but where is that?
It's the MP's office.
Who is he?
Nathaniel Erskine-Smith.
Exactly. He is the Minister of Housing, and he's in the neighborhood. He is right now here. So we're going to, even though they think that we're not going to protest, because they give us these little crumbles of the housing, but they didn't do it right. Yes, it's a good effort. Let's go. Well, I don't know if it's a good effort, but it's a beginning. But it's not good enough.
No.
Okay. So we're going there. We're going to march, and we're going to march slow.
Yes.
We're not going like fast, because the idea is that people hear what we are protesting. That people support us. Okay? Again, if somebody calls you a name, what you going to say?
Ignore.
Nothing. Exactly. Ignore.
Thank you.
Okay?
See you, bye.
So, no, nothing. Don't even.
Don't engage.
Do you remember how black people did it in USA when they wanted to get out and protest? They were peaceful. This is the model that we have been followed, and this is why when police come in, they know that we are not aggressive.
Yeah, we're peaceful protesters.
We are peaceful, okay?
Speaking on behalf of the people that we represent.
Yes. So we're going to chant. We're going to follow. Adriana, you have the route? Okay. So Adriana is going to explain us the route.
We're going to say hi. Say hi. No, and they won't get friends. You just thought we'd stop in and say hello. He's not in, you guys.
Big surprise.
And maybe he's at City Hall though, because today is Thursday, Wednesday, the working day, right? How many reasons you have to be paid to decide never be there? The manager? The one used to go in David. Well, he's not here. He's sitting here. But we made it this time. Oh, okay. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, so let's go to our target. So, the Minister of Housing of the country called Canada! Woo! The one who really can make changes! Alright! And he declared today that he's going to give 2.5 billion to create 60,000 units in 10 years! No! We need it now! 10 years is too much! In 10 years, we can be there! Exactly! In 10 years, I don't know, the housing, how it goes, the prices are going to be even totally, well, they are insane now, but it's going to be like, nobody's probably going to be here. No. We're going to become like Boston, like Buffalo, like Detroit, like these places that is for people, Michigan, thank you tell us the same name. Chicago, like, it's unbelievable. So if we don't do something now, no, for 2026. We're here to help, and we're going to put this right here. ACORN for the seniors. Where's the housing one? Take one look. Right underneath his sign that says he's here to help. Make sure he's here to help. ACORN seniors. Where's the housing sign? Renters bill. Put them all up. There you go. Take them all up in that order. Where's she at?
I think he's here to help landlords.
Well, no, because we're letting them know. Like we always do, we have to tell these people their jobs, right? We have to do their job description and always got to remind them of what their actual job is. So here, you want to help? Help that. Here, 4. Here, help that one. Help this one. Yeah, put that one up there. That one too. Yeah, that one too. I love that. I did that for my girlfriend's birthday.
let me go with you guys.
That was a surprise. You want to sign up for some all up in his chair. Look, all up here. Just use it right there. All of them. Use all of them. Here. One right here. Mom, put the color. In. Lay them out. I love the artistic work. So while our members are doing that, we're going to give a letter to Mr. Nathaniel Erskine-Smith, the Ministry of Housing of Canada, the Federal Ministry of Housing. He is the one who has the mullah, you know? He is the one who has the money. He is the one who can do this. And not only has the money, he can do legislation. Because only building housing is not going to be what we need, isn't it? He needs to add legislation. So what we are asking is a national lease structure that gives tenants a security of tenure and limits rent increases. Then national food rent control with security of tenure. Yes. Because I don't know if you know, there are people in Nova Scotia that even have even worse than us. Yes, they are. Because they only had 12 months lease. And if they, at the end of the 12 months lease, the landlord says, you know what, I want more money, out. And there's no protection. There's no laws like here. So he is the one who can change that. As well, we had people that, well, you know, your units are maintained. You had your landlord asking you, what do you need? No, when you call them and you ask for repairs, how many of them answer, for sure, it's my pleasure. Yeah. Have you had this experience? No. Normally what they say, okay, put it in the portal. 2 weeks later, you call again. And they're like, oh, why you bother me so much? I will call you later, or something like that. This is the polite way, but I have heard so many awful things that our members have said. You know?
We just got an AGI approved, although it was reduced, but we've been going with reduced pressure of water since December.
Boom! And this is what he can change, even though they say, oh, it's provincial. No, he can have the power because they were able to silence all these truckers, isn't it? Yes. They were able because they want it. So they can do the same thing with the province and say, you know what? People are suffering, you change the law or you change the law. But they don't want it. They don't want to stand in the dogs of other people. But we need to suffer because they don't care. They don't want. And yes, they have been giving the 2.5 billion, but that is only political because what about if they don't win this campaign? What is going to happen with that promise? It's not going to win because it's not going to be royal assent right now. It's for 2026. You know? You see the catch?
Okay. The other thing is protect the rights to organize and build it. Not long ago, we had a member who was evicted. Yes, he was evicted for other reasons. However, these people sent 2 complaints to landlord by tenant because he brought ACORN to complain about the state of the building. I saw it with my own eyes. It's dead, and the complaint from the tenant, from the landlord, sorry. How on earth in a Canadian country, and sorry, in Canada, we can receive this type of treatment? That is unacceptable.
We have the right to organize.
Exactly. We have the right to organize, and this is democratic. So, how we see to that? This is how democracy, where we can talk and we can have freedom of speech, and we can say that 2.5 billion alone is not good enough. We need legislation. We need that.
Sorry, it's just we might want to reuse some of the signs. That's why. Listen, let's just have a sign part. Everybody make a bunch of signs in our monthly meeting. Let's make a bunch of signs, right? Because you guys are always making them. I'm sure we can buy some Bristol boards somewhere. Because we know we make them to leave them, right?
Here, I can hold it.
But guys, we cannot do 2 things at the same time. Or we read the letter, or we do this. Anyway.
Right beside his face. Yeah.
He can. No, this is behind.
Okay, so we're going to give this letter to them.
And all petitions that were collected while we were having the meeting there. So we're going to give it to them, and we're going to explain it why it's going on. That's the 2.5 billion. Because it's not only their money. Because you know, when you milk a cow too much, at some point the cow is going to be dry. Meaning the government cannot take all the money and get dry. They need to do partnership with other organizations. Plus, they need legislation to be how you say, a wholesome cost for housing.
Yes.
Okay? So who wants to not the letter? Where'd you get this nice Who agrees? ACORN!
No, that housing is.
Yes, for all. Okay, so somebody
Listen.
wanna say something else that is related to housing? Something that affects you personally, something that you are fed up with. If you wanna repeat the same thing, it's okay, no problem.
Go ahead. Landlord.
Mortgages out to people that bring copious amounts of money from overseas who are financially incentivized to leave the units empty. Okay, because they're allowed to enter in a certain amount of money, a large sum once, and then they can declare losses on the condos every single month, send more money, and then after they pay the units off with a 5-year mortgage, they are allowed to write off all the losses that they took. It is more financially beneficial for a foreign investor to leave a unit empty than it is to rent to people.
Disgraceful. Disgraceful.
And they need to stop that. And they need to force these people to sell minimum 50% of their units, because that would at least create minimum 42,000 units of available housing tomorrow. We don't have to wait 5 years to build something. We need them today. We need them now.
That's right. Now. Yes, see? There's all kinds of cooking that's going on behind closed. The better it is for us. Because that's how we find out how.
What happened inside?
Mail delivered.
Oh yes, I love being a process server. Takes me back to my college days. All right, so I met with Sophie, the press secretary for the lovely MP Nathaniel. She actually does support and says she loves what we're doing out here.
Thank you.
And beyond the announcement today of the $2.5 billion going to the city of Toronto and it only being 7 properties, she also showed me a map of 3 other properties that are apparently in the works and already built, but only 40, 60, and possibly 80% of each of those 3 buildings are going rent geared to income.
Shameful.
The rest will be market rent, and of course in today's market, who can afford that?
There you go. There you go.
There you go, you know what? we are protesting.
You're allowed to write off 50% twice.
That's right, they know.
So our voices have been heard. We have support apparently, according to the press secretary, Sophia, and of course the MP himself. He says he supports our organization and of course affordable housing.
Good stuff. That's right. So he knows he's going to be held to task. Amazing. Thank you so much. So now, the only thing that we can do is keep going, keep knocking at the doors, keep raising our voices. Don't get tired, because this is only a battle. But the war, we're going to win it. We're going to win it. The war, we're going to win it because we have won so many wars already. Remember? So you want to say something? Amazing. Here you go. Hey. Hello. Hello. Welcome. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for showing up. Yes, ma'am. We're here all the time, 24/7, 365. I'm glad to
They could be at a market loss if they're product take, and then say you don't
I'm in the West End.
you don't show up, can't be you, the rent, you have to show up.
See, you guys know one another. Oh. Glad to know that you're here to support.
Okay, and then we can actually take those.
Yeah.
See you in the picture? It's better in person.
That. Okay, I'm sorry. Fast. Yeah, how much?
Well, actually, I don't have the papers in front of me here.
We had the list of demands.
Definitely.
Right on the window.
Because I will say, some of the stuff around security tenure we did have
Pearl Skinner.
It's really tough.
But I have certainly in my circle have Skinner Stone. I'm Jamaican, but raised in that.
So I look at the send in for research. Oh, sorry. It's pretty high level. It's like, it's the right direction. No, but it's pretty high level. And so I think there's right. So there's, I think there's just an ongoing conversation
like that, but I'm like, Warden takes his passes.
We got to make sure records are protected. And so, on the non-market side, this is where I've tried. I've only been doing this for 3 months, obviously. But on the non-market side, like I've tried to raise this up as much as I can, as much as I can. And we have Mark Carney's leadership. I was talking about it beforehand, and Mark Carney's leadership was close to doubling non-market housing. When we look at the CMHC will tell you we need to double housing supply, all kinds of housing, and double housing supply over the next 10 years in a big way. But we do not have enough non-market housing in Canada. We just don't. And all kinds of non-market housing, right?
There's restrictions on land use, and there's also a lack of capitalist investment. But the federal government's had this funding since 2017.
Yeah, and you should know. So
we have to wait another 10 years?
I hope not. So the funding in 2017 though has made a big difference. So you have, I would say, I was just talking with my parents about this. They lived in a co-op from 81 to 86, and I was born in 84. And when my brother was born, didn't have enough space, and they moved out. And my parents were able to buy a place with some help on Kings Mountain, just down here. And we don't have enough. Like there were no investments in co-ops and non-market housing for decades.
That's right.
In 2017, we saw I would say the first reassertion of a federal role in housing in decades. That was important. What we now call the Affordable Housing Fund, the Apartment Construction Loan Program. I just did a tour actually with Olivia Chow this morning, and it was a really it was a really interesting project because the province put up the land, obviously not
for 7 properties and funding for.
So, but the one we did a tour of, this was it was just a really good model. It's Canary Landing, and the province put up the land, not this particular provincial government, a previous provincial government put up the land. The city waived fees. We came in with low-cost, long-term financing, and all of the units on average are 20% below market, but it's a mix. Some are at 100%, some are at 80%, and some are at even 40%. So and they're not sort of relegated to certain parts of the building. Everyone's mixed together, so it's a really good model. With the apartment construction loan program, we announced today $2.5 billion for the City of Toronto to again drive more affordability and drive more rentals. There's another $4.5 billion that we can maybe unlock if we get the province at the table to do a bigger deal. We also
Does the federal government have any sway whatsoever? I know for me as a member over a year now with ACORN, Doug Ford refuses to meet with us, and he's got the provincial power, and obviously with tenancy rights, that's provincial, as you said earlier.
So I can't make Doug meet with you. But I do think
Bill 97's been sitting since 2023
right. So
in
but
Parliament.
I just want to say I do think advocacy around strong security tenure is massively important. And you see other countries actually where their national governments do have jurisdiction around security of tenure. You see longer term leases, you see more power in tenant unions, you see more power for tenants. So I think that all of that is important, but it is provincial. Had I won the Ontario Liberal leadership, I would have been able to do a bit more on that. But I will say you should know. So this week we're announcing 3 projects representing about $80 million. The first project's from the Co-op Housing Development Fund. So that's a $1.5 billion
I'll
fund.
talk to the steelworkers.
So that's happening. So there are 8 projects in the first tranche. These are the first 3 of the 8 that we're able to announce. There's a rental protection fund. It's again an acquisition fund. It's $1.5 billion. Unfortunately, the spending starts next year, so that'll be good too. My thing, and I hope you guys all push on this in particular, because I completely agree on the non-market side. It's not a question of direction, it's a question of scale. We're moving in the right direction, we just need more of it. And so,
can I ask you a question then? Alongside that, what about all these properties that are sitting vacant around here? Why can't those places be converted into, whether it be temporary shelters at this time until we can get the housing? Because every time you turn around, you see empty condos, you see empty apartment buildings that they've allowed them to deteriorate to the point that of course they're going to need work. But is because we have so much unhoused people that are struggling to just, why not use some of that money, get some money into turning those places that are sitting vacant into housing?
So,
how can they do that?
So Toronto does have MIRA, an acquisition fund, a municipal acquisition fund. And so they do some of this. It's good. We are creating again a federal version of that. I just met with an Ontario Rental Protection Fund organization that's just standing themselves up. BC is more advanced. I think Toronto and BC have similar and good models. So we need more of that idea of how do we help non-market actors acquire. And actually, here's a really interesting example. I just had a conversation with the Sault Ste. Marie Council yesterday. They set $10 million aside from the city to run through their housing corporation. They acquired rundown, underutilized, and then they fix them up. They rent them out all at a minimum 20% below market. And you know what the really interesting thing is? They still have enough money left over. They set aside for capital reserve. They still have a dividend of about $300,000 to $400,000 that they can use to acquire more housing.
So why can't that be done here?
So it is.
They're trying.
So Toronto does have a program, but again, it's a scale question. So the real thing that I've been trying to tackle is how do you scale? And so one thing we've talked about is what would a community housing development bank look like, where you can guarantee you add public land, community land. Toronto has public land, federal has public land, provincial. There are churches, there are legions, there are mosques, there are all these actors that want to do good and have land. How do you marry that community-based public land alongside a long-term guaranteed fixed low-interest loan, and then grants and contributions? And then that's like, there are examples like Denmark as an example. They have 45-year loans. The first 30 years are to pay back the project. The next 15 years are to finance the next project. So they're really interesting, more innovative models elsewhere. But we need, right now in Canada. And this is to your point about the history, how long do we have to wait? I hope not long for a further investment in housing and non-market community housing. I think we need all kinds of housing, but we need more of this too. And so the message I delivered yesterday when I was speaking on housing was we need to double housing supply overall. Housing starts are about 230,000. We need them to be double that, more than double that.
50,000 at least a year.
But in Toronto, yeah. But I mean, across the country, we need
more.
double housing starts. But we also need to. So when Canada only has 3.5% to 4% of all of housing is non-market, we also need to double the share of non-market housing. And so that's the National Housing Council has expressed this as a goal. I've expressed this as a goal. CMHC understands that we want to work. So that will be, if I'm back in this role after the election, that will be, I will continue to drive towards that goal.
Thank you, but
Yeah.
also on Marcia's
Sorry,
point that...
because you already spoke and needs to be
I
joined.
I just wanted a
one-
consideration.
Okay, so this is when CMHC grants need to be overhauled, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's me.
Okay, all right. Because it makes it a little bit harder. Like when you're charging $95,000 per door that a developer actually makes, even if they're going to do something like public housing, it's like one that there's no proof that $95,000 that the government takes and even goes towards creating more housing or like more effectiveness. So like a lot more transparency needs to be seen, at least like on our side of that. And number two, it's like the vacant home tax.
So how about this? This is what I'd be interested in. So we're soon to be in an election. I don't know exactly when, but soon to be in an election. It's nice, a warm day, and I'm glad to see so many people out committed to social housing. After election, if I'm back in this role, I would be very interested in sitting down and saying, what does it look like? If there are transparency considerations or concerns, what does that look like? If there are tenant considerations, how do we work with provinces? Like I was just in Winnipeg the other week where we hosted housing ministers across the country, and we were talking about the national housing strategy. When we re-up the national housing strategy, making sure security of tenure is a core component of that. So I think like just sitting down post-election and working through, what's federal, what isn't. I'm not gonna be able to do it like a national tenant rights thing. I'm probably not gonna be able to deliver all of that. But how do we?
What about the vacant home tax? So it's like some people own and some people own multiple like limited or incorporations, and like they purposely leave everything because it's more financially beneficial to them to leave it empty than it is to charge for rent. People that have been paying this vacant home tax for like a year, because that's not really going to do anything, because that's just an expense. In the business world, when you do something, then you're like, okay, I'll just do this and I'll just get a larger write-off later and everything. And it's like, these are just things you have to factor in. What about forcing people that have been paying a vacant home tax for longer than a year to actually sell half their units? Like just some sort of legislation to try to get them to give some of that up so that some socialized housing can be created. Because we have a lot of empty units and we got a lot of people that need them.
I think there have even been challenges on we just have to think through implementation of everything we do. So when that sounds like a pretty, I would say, aggressive action, all things considered. I don't know that there'd be a ton of support for something like that, but even on the vacant home tax, the way it's been implemented has been challenging. So I just think we just recently are starting to fund short-term rental enforcement. We're helping municipalities on the short-term rental enforcement side of things. I think we just have to, for every one of these commitments we want to see through, whatever it might be, just making sure the implementation is sound before we get going. So I think something like that.
I know it sounds aggressive, but when a lot of it is foreign investors that are actually coming in that don't actually live here domestically.
We do have a foreign buyers tax or foreign buyers ban.
On this issue?
It is, but it just depends on what direction, right? And so when it comes to
Germany did something similar though.
Send it to me. If you've got an example of something that has worked in another country very successfully, I'm very interested.
They forced some REITs to actually sell buildings that they were actually holding empty, just trying to jack up, and they actually turned it.
So I think this is an important message though. So in keeping with I think what you're getting at, yesterday I gave a longer speech on housing, and it was 3 ideas I was trying to get across. We need to remove barriers to get the market to build. We need to make sure we double the share of community housing, and the third piece, which I think is you're driving at, is we need to make sure in every rule we put in place, we are treating housing as a home first and an investment second. And so when it comes to, we want to attract investment to build. Of course we want to attract investment to build. But we don't want investment dollars to chase out affordability in the existing residential resale space. And so other countries like New Zealand, so I'd be interested in international examples, because what New Zealand does, they actually require it's a more stringent stress test and bigger down payment if you're an investor that's trying to compete in the residential resale space. If you are in the UK, they have different mortgage interest deduction rules. We have actually in BC a stronger short-term rental enforcement. Toronto is now going down this path, and we're helping to fund some of this.
Is good too.
So there are I'm very interested, all this to say, in different models that exist in other places and what we can implement here. So if you do have an example of something worked in Germany, then send it my way. And thanks very much for being here. Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time.
Can you
That's
sign
all.
this petition, like I mean, not
The
a
city
petition, but
has to.
can you sign this, that if, when you will be reelected, hopefully,
the blank copy.
so we can come back and chat with you?
Yeah, of course you can
I'll
come
give
back
you
and
the
chat
blank
with me.
copy. You can give this.
Well, you got me on video. You can come back and chat with me. Please. Yeah, but of course. That's why I
It would
came
be
out.
nice.
And I knew you were here.
I know, but can you sign, like you say you like all this? So.
No, because some of it is national.
Well, put this no, but at the rest.
No, I'm not gonna mark it up now. But what I will say is, I'm happy to sit down. I've gone back and forth by email with local reps at ACORN before to say how can I help. So in any way, you just say.
Well, at least it's the first time that in beaches a liberal come in and speak to us. So it's a win. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, no, no, queremos. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I've got it. Yeah, your pen.
Thank you so much.
I know that's all provincial.
That is ridiculous, though. That is the most insane concept ever created.
It's
It's so unfair, though. They don't even include us and ask us, do we feel what they're doing is worthwhile? It doesn't benefit the residents. It's a lot of cosmetic stuff. You know what I mean?
everything. This is the frustration. It's like the tenants' rights piece, the security of tenure, the rent control piece is all provincial. And this is what we were trying to get at with this tenants' bill of rights, the renters' bill of rights. It's just the way it rolled out, it was very high level and it was aspirational. And it's important to set the right direction.
These landlords
It's
are
not very
becoming
specific.
like legalized criminals. They're trying to renovate like all kinds of unnecessary nonsense, things that instead of doing the essentials that really matter, like we have, the heating and air conditioning, right? It's so like it's from 1901. It's so it's like burning hot in the summer and freezing cold in the winter. You can't regulate it. They need to put in a new system there, but instead they're putting carpet on the side of the wall and all kind of nonsense. Fireplace downstairs that doesn't even work. It's just for aesthetics.
Yeah.
And we have to pay for it. They don't ask us whether we feel we need it. It's not anything that benefits the quality of living for the tenants, And they should have, what dentists have, like somebody who oversees what they do. I forget an auditor.
Yeah.
Each building should have an auditor. So somebody who's non-biased that oversees what they do.
You're almost saying like a tenant's ombudsman.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
something like that.
right.
That's interesting.
Because they do what they feel like doing with us. They have us
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a ping pong.
Yeah.
And then the renovations, the noise that went on, it's like 24/7. And I mean, they should at least give us a couple months.
And the other thing I would say is empowering council. So like the landlord-tenant board, a lot of this is where it gets litigated, right? And so making sure that this is the last time I was emailing back and forth. It was sort of saying, can I help in any legal? Like, is there advice I can provide when there were? Can't remember if Crescent Town or where it was, but there was like real challenges on that. It's like, can I provide helpful sort of set of recommendations or advice on the legal side? But I do think just looking at the landlord-tenant board, making sure that tenants are never at a disadvantage when it comes to representation. Because some of what happens is within the law needs to be changed, and then some of what happens is litigated.
Somebody who deals with the finances in our building, my girlfriend, right? She's trying to get her tenant ledger thing straightened out. She has about 5 different papers, if not even more, about different calculations. And she's saying, like, which one is right? And, the manager is saying, well, our calculations are right, you owe this, but yet she's got 5 or 6 different quotes of different amounts. So I don't know what they're doing. They're all confused. Like, I don't know.
So something like that is where, that's kind of what I was saying, that is where you need strong representation in terms of either a tenant union or you need some representation in terms of legal
We have a
representation.
tenant union and they betrayed us. You know what I mean? They went on strike. Our building, they didn't pay rent. They went on strike. So the ones that went on strike, I don't know, they had a secret agreement. They got $1,200 each. Tenants that didn't pay rent. And the ones that did pay their rent, like me, we didn't get in on that. It was like, and when you ask them about it, they don't want to tell you, let you know what this deal is, what they're going. Our management told them to shut up and stop dragging their name through the mud, and they'll pay them off. And our tenant union agreed to on $1,200. If they just shut their mouths and stop making their name look bad, that's wrong. Very wrong what they did. That's not straight. You know what I mean? It's
There's a
borderline criminal. you know
yeah,
what I mean?
but that I mean there's a question of law, and then there's what you're talking about, which is I don't know the details of all of that, but what you're talking about is something you pride,
But
right?
what
So
I'm saying, they should have somebody to investigate certain allegations like this. Otherwise, they get away with everything. God knows what they do, you know. And they're so unprofessional. In the office where we live, if the world was coming to an end, they wouldn't tell you. And nothing, they don't know their head from their feet. You ask them a question, I don't know. I don't know. If you don't know, who knows? There's no manager, there's no property manager. You know what I mean? It's like living in the middle of Saudi Arabia where we live. They don't have any property manager, no nothing. You've got two women that don't know if they're coming or going in the office there. Yeah.
well, it's very nice to meet you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, of course.
You gotta make sure.